Welcome to Corks Conversation with Zac Bissonnette.
I'm very, very excited to meet him. His new book, A Killing in Costumes, is really fun. I'm guessing he probably will be too. We're holding up the gorgeous cover. Yes. Gorgeous cover.
Right. And I agree. I think it was a lot of fun. And, he's a little bit of a mystery to us. Because he has sort of a funny bio, and let me read a little bit about him so that you can hear who he is. Zac Bissonnette is the New York Times bestselling author of several nonfiction books, including The Great Beanie Baby Bubble, Mass Delusion, and The Dark Side of Cute. He's an equity analyst at a hedge fund and lives in New York City with his partner and a tuxedo cat named Perry Como. Now, on his website, he gives this description. His favorite singer is Perry Como. Oh, that makes sense. His favorite author is Agatha Christie. His favorite tea is Harney & Sons Hot Cinnamon Spice. His current favorite Bath and Body Works candle is Vanilla Pumpkin Marshmallow. But that is subject to change as the new release scents come out. He recently ordered the 2021 limited release holiday fragrance, 'Tis the Season, for which he has high hopes. And he looks forward to trying the Tree Farm scent as well. And the online exclusive pumpkin pie remains a perennial contender. Okay, so as you can see, we know he's funny. We just don't know a whole lot more, except we do know that his debut mystery, A Killing in Costumes, has just a lot of great reviews, and I've got one that I wanted to share with you guys. It's from Miranda James. She's New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of The Cat in the Stacks and The Southern Ladies Mysteries, and she says, it's sure to enthrall. At the very core of this astonishing debut is love in various forms, and especially our eternal love of and fascination for Hollywood in all its glamour and glitz. So, Zac, it is so great to have you here with us today.
I'm never going to get any better than that intro. I should just say goodnight, so. But that's wonderful. Thank you.
Except maybe at Christmas time when you've changed some of your scents. I'm just saying.
Yes, I think I actually need to update that bio for the 2022 scents. But
very polished.
It's on the list. Well, thanks so much for having me. That's a great. It's just such a kind intro. And if anyone hasn't read the Miranda James Cat in the Stacks mysteries, I think they're the best cozy mysteries in the world, and I would highly recommend those to anyone.
Oh, good
happy
to know.
Talk about my book too, but everyone should buy Miranda James's book.
Cat in the Stacks.
Okay, there you go, everybody.
You heard it.
All right. Yep. So
let's talk.
Cathi.
Yeah, let's talk.
Are we drinking wine today, or
we're
what?
Having tea. Normally we have a little wine. And Zac had this fantastic idea of having some wine. No. See?
Guess what kind?
Tea.
No.
He wants tea.
Yeah. By the way, you guys should drink wine if you want.
No, I thought it was a good idea.
No, we wanted this tea is great, and honestly, I ordered.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know if anybody can see.
We should have sent it to you. It's terrific tea.
I don't have it.
Yeah, it was so easy. I got it on Amazon. But it's from New York.
Yeah, they have a store in Soho, which is really cool because the family still works there. It's like really, you can learn all about it.
Oh, good.
Is it?
Well, it's tasty. I'm really enjoying it,
Yeah,
even though I'm in
Harney
Florida. I like the
Is
cinnamon.
that what you guys said? What's the tea?
Yes,
Harney
and Sons Hot Cinnamon Spice Tea.
Sounds nice. Well, listen, I have. I did not do the hot cinnamon spice. I'm not a cinnamon person, but I am having sweet tangerine positive energy from Yogi Teas.
Wow. I like the Yogi Teas.
Oh.
I do too. I love them.
Yeah, I do too.
My little fortune, on the tea bag on Yogi Teas, it gives you a little something to say. And it says the only constant is change. Thanks. I know.
Okay.
So listen, let's do a cheers with our tea to Zac and his
you're very kind.
debut.
Cheers.
Cozy, Zac. Cheers to you.
Thank you so much.
All right. So before we get into the questions, I'm going to give a little bit of a synopsis of A Killing in Costumes.
Here's the cover.
The main characters are... Yes, it's really fun.
Yeah.
I love the colors. Mm-hmm. That would be a nice poster for my wall.
That's
We're talking about the things on my
it's so
wall.
funny.
Yeah.
I was so upset when the cover was that good, because now it's like, okay, if it doesn't sell, I can't blame the artist. Because I'm sure you guys are writers. It's like, if you're writing, it's really all about looking for other people to blame when things don't work.
Oh, for sure.
That's
anything in life.
Right. Well, it worked. I hope you're. It just came out. What was the book birthday? It was
August 9th.
Last week or August 9th? Oh, okay. So a little bit earlier. So you're coming down off that craziness, which we'll have to ask you about. But anyway, the main characters are Jay Allen and Cindy Cooper, and I just love that they have such a funny backstory. They were soap opera stars together when they were young, and then they got married, and then they did a music show and all kinds of stuff, and then they realized that each of them realized they were gay, and they divorced, but they're still best friends, and now they have this great store where they just opened, where it's all memorabilia from Hollywood that they're selling, and of course there's going to be some, competition, which I didn't realize how cutthroat it was in this business, but they have a little competition, and one of their main competitors ends up dead, which usually happens in a mystery, right? So anyway.
Someone's got to die. Let's be honest.
In a cozy mystery, yep. So it's just a real fun story. All the different characters, and trying to figure out who did it, and if they're gonna, be they're kind of the suspects, but they're also trying to solve it. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you.
And we hope that everything comes out okay. We're not going to give anything away. And it was a twist. I was surprised.
Oh, that's funny.
I love
it. It's funny you mentioned the not give, because this is always like a thing when you talk about a mystery novel, with how much of the plot can you give away when you're talking about it. And a friend of mine just went to this big Agatha Christie festival in England, and they had a rule where all the speakers were told very clearly at this Agatha Christie festival, when you're talking about a book, you cannot give away who done it. Which
Agatha Christie books?
Which I thought was the idea that, like, who would be at an Agatha Christie festival, but don't tell me who the killer is in Murder on the Orient Express. I thought it was such a bizarre rule.
I know, and the books have been around.
In case you haven't read
so long,
Agatha Christie, and you go to the Agatha Christie con.
You're the one person in the audience.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. But I think maybe it's a sort of a sort of ceremonial thing out of respect for the books or something.
Yeah. Okay, I get that. All right. So my first question is this setting that we mentioned of Hollywood memorabilia world. It's really kind of fascinating. I mean, who knew? And we're wondering what gave you the inspiration for this? Are you like a big collector yourself, or what?
I don't collect movie memorabilia. The one thing I do collect is Perry Como memorabilia. So I have an enormous collection of record contracts, letters, magazines, everything Perry Como related.
Really?
And what made me, it's funny. So when I was doing research for the book, because even though it's fiction, you still want to have some vague idea of what you're talking about, so that because I just think it makes it more interesting that way. And a lot of it you can do on Google and Wikipedia, but I actually interviewed Joseph Maddalena, who is the top movie memorabilia expert and dealer in the world. He runs the Hollywood memorabilia category at Heritage Auctions. So I reached out to him, set up a phone call to interview him, there's a cool interview with him in the back of the book. It's the author's notes, one of my favorite parts of the book. And I told him he had read about the plot because I had sent him the information. And the first thing he said when we got on the phone was, I read the plot of your book, and my first thought is, that is totally realistic. which I thought was so funny. He's like, but no, I was thinking about it. It's like, you get some 90-year-old lady in Palm Springs who's been building this 7-figure collection for the past 50 years and nobody's ever seen it, and you got a couple people competing for it. He's like, absolutely someone could end up dead.
Oh.
And I think what interested me about the Hollywood memorabilia angle as a setting for a mystery novel, and if you talk to people in this world, they will tell you this. So Dorothy's ruby red slippers sold for $2 million, which is a lot of money. It's a ton of money, but actually, like, that's nothing in the world of contemporary art, if you think about it, or like coins. Like, so it's, in terms of sheer monetary value, it is not one of the major collecting categories. However, the emotional pull and hold that these pieces have over people far outpaces, in many cases, the monetary aspect. Because, and I think it's a couple of things, one of which is people in general collect movie memorabilia based on their favorite movies, which in general were the things they loved when they were children. That's generally the nostalgia curve. If you saw a movie when you were in your 40s, you probably don't run out and start collecting stuff based on it. Maybe you do, but it's much more typical that people have this halcyon memory of these movies that were so magical to them as kids. So you have this sort of nostalgic psychological hold that these objects have over people. And then you also have the fact that they really are, in most cases, one of a kind.
So it's a good investment. I mean, it not only is it emotional, but also can be a financial good investment.
Yeah. I mean, that's, yeah. So it's, but the emotional thing in some ways was what interested me the most about it, because my understanding from talking and reading is that this category has an emotional pull that is stronger than a lot of other categories.
So what about Perry Como got you pulled in to this?
I've just always thought he was the best singer in the world. My grandparents liked him. I became a fan when I was 12 years old, and I've just always thought he was a perfect singer, and just perfect tone, perfect pitch, sang things straight, sung without any ego. And I also think he was also a really cool guy, is one of the things, if you read about him. He was just a really nice, sweet, down-to-earth guy, laid back. Everything about his image was, and so, that matters to me a little bit. It's like Frank Sinatra was a great singer, but then you read some of the stuff about him and you maybe don't want to listen to him as much.
Right.
Maybe not someone to hold.
Right. Are you a singer as well?
No, because and it's so funny. I think
probably when nobody else is around, you probably sing
maybe,
with Perry.
But I'm never going to sound like Perry Como, so
I love that.
Right. The bar's too high. The bar's too high. But I mean, I'm surprised though how much the memorabilia did cost. I mean, I know you say it doesn't compare, but I mean, in the beginning, and I'm not giving anything away. This was like in the first chapter. There was a Bette Davis director chair that was for $15,000. I don't know how realistic that is, but I was right. Oh my gosh.
It's so funny. Most of the pieces in the store, almost all of them, are actually pulled from auction records.
Oh, cool.
Because I wanted it to be, I wanted the prices and the objects to be real and realistic.
Yeah, and then when the customer sat in it, I was like, "Get up!
Yeah.
Get up! If you break that."
Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah, that's funny. But that Betty, because it was a chair from Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and that's an interesting thing that can happen in movies. So that was a kind of camp classic at the time, but then what happened was it came out that Joan Crawford and Bette Davis absolutely despised each other on the set. There was a mini series about it a couple of years ago. I mean, there's a scene where, she pushes her, and one of them is in a wheelchair and the other one has to push her. And the people on the set were nervous, please don't kill her. Because they really, I think it was when Bette Davis died, I think a reporter called Joan Crawford, and she said, they say you should never say anything bad when someone died. So I'll just say Bette Davis is dead. Good. I mean, they really despise each other. So I think sometimes the story behind things adds to the allure of it, because if you have that chair in your home, you can imagine this tremendous amount of drama on the set, in addition to the movie being great. It was just this sort of Valley of the Dolls.
Now I kind of want to watch that movie. I remember hearing about it, but I never watched it.
You never watched Whatever Happened to Baby Jane?
No.
Oh my God. It's an incredible movie. It's so weird. And
putting on the list.
It was the genre of films at the time. There's no way to say this without just saying, but they were called hag horror films.
Oh.
Or the other term, which it is really not any more politically correct, was they called them psycho-biddy films. And it was this entire genre of films that were about the idea of a sort of formerly glamorous woman of a certain age losing her mind. And that was a genre of sort of camp horror movies in the 60s.
Wow, that's...
Yeah.
There's a lot there we could dive into.
Probably my parents wouldn't want me to watch it, maybe. I don't know.
Probably not, yeah.
Oh,
okay,
funny.
so Zac, I would love to talk to you about the characters Jay and Cindy. I thought the setup for this was so great. These, like Christie introduced, these two people that were together and realized and came out and lost their jobs and lost their careers. And I kept thinking Ellen DeGeneres, when she lost that sitcom, that kind of stuck in my craw.
Yeah.
I was wondering where they came from for you. Why and how this couple, and where'd they come from?
You know, I don't have a great, they're sort of whole cloth. Personality-wise, the Jay character is based on a friend of mine who is a cabaret person in New York City. The Cindy character is kind of loosely based on Susie Orman, the personal finance expert, who I love. And, so in terms of their individual personalities, they're very much based on those two people. But in terms of their backstory, I thought, so like when I was a child, my best friend, this was in like third grade, I was gay and she was a lesbian, but neither of us knew that about ourselves or about each other until we were much older. And I remember like sometimes thinking like, in a different set of circumstances, we could have ended up married.
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think,
that's interesting.
Times because Jay and Cindy in A Killing in Costumes, they were best friends beginning in elementary school. And I think, that there's this feeling of otherness that gays and lesbians kids often feel. I think the relationship of a guy who's gay and his best friend who's a lesbian beginning when they're children, I think it's I think it's not that unusual. I think it's pretty common. I have lots of friends who've had similar, but it's never a thing that's portrayed. So that's what I want to do, is that.
I love that. I love that. I think a lot of people will find common ground there, which is what you want, right? You want to see yourself presented. So that's so great.
Yeah, and I wanted them to be sort of post-culture war. Like in my head, like they had both all been through experiencing homophobia and having their lives ruined by it. And now they're kind of focused on other things and they're sort of apolitical. So, it's not, I didn't want other people to do these books and it's important, but I didn't want this to be sort of about like their struggle with homophobia in the world. They're in Palm Springs, and let's be honest.
It's not a statement book. It's a cozy mystery.
Yeah, it's like, exactly. And it's like, if you're in Palm Springs, and you're gay, no one's going to bother you. So that was, so I wanted them to really just be living their lives. They've been through all of these tribulations, and now they're kind of just finally have found contentment with themselves, and they're happy about it.
That's the win right there.
I like that.
That's the win. I love that. Okay, so we're midway. Christie is grabbing it. So we normally ask the authors we talk to, what we call question in the bottle. The question you might get to at the bottom of a wine bottle.
Oh, interesting.
Or a very lively tea in our case.
Or a tea. You could read your tea leaves.
Yeah. So the reason I don't drink is I don't need alcohol to say crazy things. So this is just fine.
We could tell.
Awesome.
All right. Oh, so This is probably too easy. If you had intro music, what song would it be and why?
Probably Looks Like We Made It by Barry Manilow.
Oh, I love Barry.
Oh, okay.
Partly because he's Jay's favorite singer.
Oh man, that reminds me of my young
young
years.
It's a very weird song. It's the songwriter, the guy who wrote it. I remember him saying in an interview once that he would often hear people playing this song at weddings, it is a very sad song.
Yeah,
and it's a song about having bid someone and then you're apart and then you both have gone on to new lives and then you see each other again and you sort of feel this sense of like, what did we miss out on? And I want to be happy where I am, but I'm not. And
right.
I just love that song. So.
I do too. Christie,
well, I thought Barry Manilow didn't write it.
No, he didn't write that one. He wrote a lot of his songs. That was written by I just blanked on the name, but a very
That's okay.
sort of prominent.
We'll look it up.
What?
We'll have our sound engineer look it up.
Yeah. I always love the Barry Manilow, Bette Midler background stories.
Oh, well, because they performed in gay bathhouses together.
Yeah. And I went to a Bette Midler concert a long time ago.
Oh, my God.
It was fantastic. She was bawdy and just hilarious. And she told some great Barry Manilow stories at the concert.
So she was bawdy at the show you went to?
Oh.
I will tell you, since you like that, I can do this.
I do.
So my favorite Barry Manilow story about Bette Midler, which he told in his memoir, was sort of when they were doing the shows at the Continental bathhouses, back before either of them were famous, they had somehow, through some sort of screw up, gotten booked to play a like family restaurant in suburban New Jersey. And they go there and it's all these kids and families and they're doing their show and it is just not landing even a little bit. People don't like the songs. People don't know the songs. People don't like the jokes. People don't get the jokes. So there's this 5-year-old girl in the front row who's kind of leaning back in her chair, really bored. And Bette Midler goes up to her on the stage and says in the microphone to a 5-year-old at a restaurant during her show in New Jersey, "Don't slouch, honey. It'll make your breasts sag." Bette Midler said that to a 5-year-old. Anyway, I just want to say, just for the record, I do not condone her having said that. I was just repeating it because it's funny.
Pretty funny now.
Oh man,
yeah, that was a
funny.
wild concert. I haven't thought about it in a long, long time, but it was a wild,
she's just
fun
terrific.
concert. Oh my gosh!
I wish they'd do more together, but they don't.
Yeah, so that was awesome. I love that. Christie, do you have intro music that you would use?
Oh, well, I mean, probably my ringtone for the last 10 years, Tom Petty's American Girl.
She loves herself
Just
some Tom Petty.
Love Tom Petty. So, yeah. What about you, Cathi?
I should have asked that of you. I would pick...
see?
My favorite song all time, I would say, is Watershed by Indigo Girls. So I would pick an Indigo Girls song.
They were terrific, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Pretty good. Okay, so...
All right, we'll put that on the next podcast for you.
We'll
Cathi.
play ourselves in next time. Okay, so Zac, I am very curious about your journey from finance, which I know you're still in the finance world, but you've written a lot of financial books, and economics to writing cozies.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? How? What?
No, it's funny. So my day job is in finance, and it's such a different part of one's brain writing mysteries that I can work in my day job during the week and then I can write a cozy on the weekend. And it's so different. It doesn't really feel like I'm working that much because it's such a different part of the brain. But, I'll tell you, like, the reason I've always loved cozies is they just have this warmth to them. And I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said before, but I just know, like, in March 2020, when I was in New York City, this was not a great time. And I just remember reading books by like Miranda James, who we talked about at the intro, and Jem McKinley, and just they made me feel happy, and and I just and they're soothing, and that's what I love about them. And I think certainly you need other kinds of books too for different occasions, but I think it's pretty awesome to be able to offer the people who've done this successfully for a long time, to just be able to offer people that little escape, that little vacation. There's nothing cooler than that.
I completely agree.
Yeah, we've noticed, with our from our viewpoint, cozies, people really started reading a lot of cozies during the pandemic. It was something that a lot of people just were drawn
I've
to,
heard that.
which is kind of cool.
Yeah. It makes sense to me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do too. I think I had been introduced to cozies a long time ago by a neighbor, and the first cozy I ever read was Diane Mott Davidson.
Oh wow, yeah.
Culinary cozies, and I love the combination of cooking and cozies. And I did return to some of them during the pandemic, and
interesting.
I think similarly, I hadn't really ever read romance, and I had read romance, a couple romance books in the last few years. And I felt the same way about romance. It was like, oh, there's some joy here.
Yeah.
Because Christie and I both write thrillers, and we write, kind of hardcore crime fiction, and that's mostly what we read.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have a little joy, too.
You need both. I mean,
you do.
There's some of the, sometimes these debates seem a little onanistic and boring, but you need all kinds of books for different occasions. Sometimes they're different people, but also oftentimes the same person on different occasions. And it's just they're all important.
They all have their place, don't they?
Yep.
I love that.
Yep. So you write on the weekends? Is that what tell us a little bit about your writing process, how you got this book written?
I mean, there are so many better people to talk to about writing process, but
Yes.
Well, we're always curious. We almost ask everybody.
Yeah, no, it's a great question.
You
I think
finished a book and it's published.
Because everyone's answer is different.
But Zac, you've also written how many nonfiction books?
4, maybe.
Okay, so you have a writing path here. So how does that work for you?
Well, I used to be a journalist, which, so my first books were, like the Beanie Baby book. I traveled around and talked to sort of piece together the story of the guy who created them and became a billionaire, and the collectors who made and lost fortunes on them. And that was really, it's so different because it's creative in its way, but it is all factual. Everything has to be true. And so much of the work is the information gathering. And then, you really have to just write it and try to structure it in a way that's interesting, but you are confined by reality. Fiction's both harder and easier because, like I was telling you this, it's like in fiction, nonfiction's hard because you can't make stuff up. Fiction's hard because you have to make everything up. That's how I always think about it. And so, in terms of process, I mean, I've never been like one of those people. It's like, I have to do this certain ritual, or I need complete silence, or I need a certain, I could sit and write while people are talking 5 feet away from me. I don't find that to be an issue for me personally.
Same with fiction and nonfiction. You can just no distractions.
Yeah, I mean, for now, cool. I mean, what I've been doing, like on the book I'm writing now, is I go to a library, the New York Society Library in New York. It's like a private members library, and I just go and sit in a little desk and surrounded by books, and I just write there on weekends. I like that. I like the going somewhere to write because it makes procrastination really hard, because you're there and you have nothing else to do, and you want to go home at some point and do other things. Whereas if you're writing from home, it can be very easy to put it off because you can always do it later. So whereas when I'm at the library, I have to do it.
I'm guilty.
I know.
No, it's
and it was, and the pandemic didn't help things with that.
I think procrastination is something I think basically every writer struggles with.
Yeah.
Because getting started is hard, and so for me, I and I didn't always do this, but now I just don't write it. I actually don't write in my apartment at all. I only write at the library. I like that separation. But
I found airports are a really great place to write because I have nothing else to do. Like I haven't brought anything else to do. And
Interesting.
I'm super productive in a airport waiting area. I don't know, the Delta Lounge I've discovered.
Yeah.
So I have to travel more now.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not the most cost-effective strategy to only write in airports.
Yeah,
I might need to work on that.
Yeah, I go to the local coffee shop. That's what I do.
Oh, do you?
Or like Brad Parks. Do you know Brad Parks?
I know who he is.
He writes at Hardee's.
Yeah, he goes
He
goes to Hardee's to write.
Yeah, I know.
He's notorious for that.
But it works.
I don't know how much he still does, but they knew him, he would just go there and he said it, bottomless soda and,
But it works,
That sounds miserable.
I think it does too. But I was like, but he's prolific.
I think other customers have ended up in his books. He's a little funny as well.
So you mentioned you're working on something else. What are you working on?
A sequel to this and another thing that will probably never see the light of day. But, yeah.
Oh, don't say that.
No,
I think that's perfectly fine. Because
I try to always be working on something.
Yeah. I think that's good to know.
With no particular aspirations for it until at some point maybe there is. It's like, because the way I think about it is like, I just know that the sequel to A Killing in Costumes is better than A Killing in Costumes because I've learned things, and the more words you write, the better you get. And so it's not easy, but I really try to never think of it as sort of a waste. If I wrote something, earlier this year that I haven't shown to anyone, it's done. And I don't know, I'm still thinking about, if I ever want to, but I don't know if it works. And my point is that I'm not sort of worried about it or stressed about it, because the more you write, you'll come up with stuff that does work.
There you go. And everything that you do, even if you don't utilize it in the traditional way to get published, it serves the greater good.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And and I just know, I think at some point, and I think this is where it would probably become stressful, is if I've written tons and tons of words and I can tell that I'm not getting better at it, then I think that would be stressful. But by the way, everyone watching should go and buy A Killing in Costumes. I promise.
Yes, you should.
But what I'm saying is that, like, I think I have several more books in front of me at least before I stopped getting better. So
I think, I think these characters deserve a lot more revisiting. They are fun. I can see the depth in all of them and what they're going to come up with next, and I think it should be a series.
I love you for saying that.
Yeah, I think I would love to see them on screen too. I have to
tell everyone you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so fun talking to you.
Mysteries.
Christie's got another question for you, though.
Oh, yes. We have one question that we ask all our authors. Which of your characters would you like to share a meal with, and what would it be?
Interesting. I think because the main characters I have spent a lot of time with, because they're in every scene. So I think it would probably be Yana Tosh, the 90-year-old former film star. And I think, look, we would probably have to eat something very low sodium. She's getting on. She's still very energetic.
Kind of soft, and she also, maybe like pasta.
Yeah, no, I think she'd probably want to drink. I think she'd probably be drinking some kind of vegetable juice, freshly made. And I'd maybe have that. Yeah, I think I would have
on the way to her exercise class.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I'd probably go do Zumba with her. So,
wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, there you go.
So
that's a question I asked. Like, what exercise class would you want to do with which of your characters? Anyway.
That's a good question.
That's something to know. Yeah.
That is a good one. Jazzercise, I'm feeling for her, but
absolutely. I just read a thing that jazzercise is like having a comeback. But anyway.
It's totally.
Do you do it?
No, but I in college taught aerobics during the height of the late 80s,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aerobics,
and so like I don't do that anymore.
Amazing.
Okay, so listen, I want to know how readers who want to learn more about you should reach out to you.
You can, let's see, I'm on Twitter, twitter.com/Zac Bissonnette. You can go to my website and there's a contact us form where you can ask me about anything. And I write back to, I write back to everyone partly because I'm going to be honest, I don't get a lot of emails. I'm not.
Okay, everyone, you heard him.
So
Let's
everybody,
go.
Yeah, please do, because I'm just sitting here. The phone doesn't ring. It's getting no. But no, I would love to hear from people. I love hearing from people who've
Awesome.
read anything I've ever written. It just makes me so happy. Even if it's negative, that's kind of fun too.
Great.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not one of those because.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Oh,
I was just going to say there's some people who
What were you gonna
don't like when people tag them in reviews. You can tag me. Everyone should tag me in reviews. Even if you hate it, tell me. It's good to know.
I love that.
Really? You have the thick skin, unlike most writers.
I just
have
think
that
if
thin
you're,
skin.
I think you have to. I think, I mean, first of all, it's a privilege to have people read stuff, and it's you want. I think I like knowing what people think about things. I think it's helpful.
Yeah.
There you go. So reach out, send him emails.
Absolutely.
I would love that.
Tag him.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right, and we'll
Yep,
include,
and read his book. It's awesome. It's so fun,
Very cool.
and then you'll be ready for the sequel.
Awesome.
So, but really, thanks so much for joining us and introducing us to this lovely tea, hot cinnamon spice.
I'm so glad you like it.
Cheers!
This was a blast. Thank you so much.
I'm done with my
Thanks.
tea.
Thank you.
Take care.